Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing, and most importantly, getting into the chat. Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling. We have loads to talk about. We have moved on to the semifinals of the Carabao Cup. We have Crystal Palace away at the weekend, and Jesus scored a hat trick. And so we're gonna give Deluded a moment to have because he's very excited about this. He's very excited. Would you like to speak?
I'm just happy to be here. I think you need to tell the fans about your timing. Like you was late.
No, I was
I've not
late.
heard any
I was
apologies. That's it, man. What did you say about Jesus?
That he scored a hat trick.
Oh, good stuff, man. He's the only attacker that's got a hat trick in the squad. It's all right, man. It's all right, man. Jesus is risen, as you got in the title, man. We're calm, man. I've got nothing to say on Gabriel Jesus. You know what he does in it, like.
You're so excited and so happy.
Amazing footballer, man. Amazing footballer, man. Nice to see you giving him his flowers on socials as well.
Of course, but I'm not a hater, and I don't, actually when I don't delete my tweets about people.
I don't know.
When I give them praise,
what does that mean? Who's deleted stuff? I don't know anything, man.
I'll speak plainly. I looked for your Kivior tweets where you said "good job" and you had deleted them.
Who's Kivior? Oh, the centre back at Arsenal. He had a good game yesterday, man. Did you watch it?
You were shameless. I was like, you deleted them. But
Chestnut
listen,
checkers, mom.
Okay, no, I hear that because obviously people use your old tweets against you. So I know because you try to do that to me all the time.
They always come around, man. They always come around. She knows Arsenal, so it's nice to see Gabriel Jesus got praise, man. She really does.
Of course, because I'm not a hater. But yeah, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and all that kind of stuff. Listen, yesterday was probably a tale of two halves, which is, like kind of like a growing theme for us. We have either a good first half and we drop off, or a bad first half and we change it up. But yesterday, we definitely had the tale of two halves. When I went and rewatched, I actually did not rewatch the first half because I was like, I don't have time for this shit. Get to the real stuff. And the second half was like light and day. Like it was so different. The tempo was better. We were passing between the lines. We're doing a lot of things that I feel like we've spoken about over the last couple of weeks. What would you pinpoint like the difference between those two halves? Because really before that, if you look at the timeline was very much so like, this is a terrible performance. And now everybody is super excited and loving the football again. So what would you pinpoint the difference between the halves to?
It's the player I know me and you both have a laugh and a joke about Kivio and Gabriel Jesus, but it's the one player that me and you actually, share the same opinions and spread a lot of propaganda. Martin Odegaard coming on was a massive spark. I think the players just got their act together. At the end of the day, you're so close to going to Wembley. You're flirting with going out of the competition. As you said there, the first half, everything went down the toilet in the sense of we conceded an early goal. For what it's worth, I did feel in the first half we reacted well to conceding and we was moving the ball around a bit. But as you said, it was night and day, man. So I just think the substitutions and maybe a shift in mentality with the players. Like I'm sure there's probably stuff tactically Arteta did differently, but I was looking at it as end of the day, it's no guarantee that you're going to win the Premier or the Champs. You've got a chance to be at Wembley. Some of you are young players that ain't won anything. Some of you have won stuff and your careers are winding down. If you want to win a trophy, you can't go out like this. And fortunately for us, we did what we needed to do, man. So I think that would be the best way to answer your question, Jess, man.
Yeah. Do you think because I was on Mo's channel and he was basically saying like he got the first 11 like wrong. It looked like he was basically throwing the competition. Where do you sit on terms of like he started off with, a lineup that was weakened and it didn't work? Do you think that it was just like he just got it wrong and he still doesn't have a grip on it? Or do you give him credit for changing it early? Because I feel like that's how I feel. I feel like he changed it early enough where I don't feel like he threw it completely. Obviously, he wanted to win the game. But some people are just like, he just went too weak. Did he go too weak in the beginning?
I mean, big up Mikel Arteta for the changes. I'm not necessarily going to praise you for that or, pardon me, get on to you about that because that's what a manager should be doing. You can see things, make a change, really. And I suppose as Arsenal fans, we haven't always been convinced with Mikel Arteta's sub. So big him up for that. ultimately we've got a weakened squad. So I'm kind of on the fence with this. We've got a weakened squad. We do need to rotate. End of the day, we made 8 changes and we went through. But at the same time, I do think Mikel Arteta has quote unquote, fielded weaker teams in the league. But I wouldn't say I disagree with him throwing it away. But that's the risk you're gonna take when you've made 8 changes, when you've got a quarterfinals. Realistically, if that was a Champions League quarterfinal, regardless of the weekend, probably wouldn't see those players. And whether it's right or wrong, at the end of the day, Mikel Arteta comes out in the press conferences and says how he trusts this guy and that guy. And, I've not been nice to Sterling. And I'm sure week in, week out, players might fall for that. But at the end of the day, the best way for you to be shown trust by your manager, if a manager rates you, is by playing. So I don't really feel it was that deep. But as you know, Jess, a lot of things got to be black or white in football, man.
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, when I saw the 11, I wasn't that worried because I just still feel like, you think about the first half and how it went down. It was really like, I feel like a massive individual error from Kivior. They didn't do really anything after that. And had we had just sped up the play, maybe even a little bit, we probably would have been a little bit better. So I don't know if I believe that lineup was just so incapable of being competitive against Crystal Palace.
100%. Look at the players that were out there, Jess. You still had
Yeah,
experienced players. I feel I don't want to keep waffling about the summer, and I'm sure you don't either. But when we're at where we're at now with what we did or didn't do, when you've got a small squad like this, that's probably as best as it's going to get, give or take, excluding injuries with the rotations. So I think you're right, man. And I think naturally, everybody expected maybe not us to play like we did in the first half, but naturally with those changes, you wasn't going to see free flowing football and great stuff. And as you said, there a drop off. So I think that's harsh from Mo, but big him up.
yeah, from my perspective is if I feel like Mikel is not getting what he wants to get out of the group, he does need to make the changes quickly. And this is probably the first time in a while that I've seen a halftime change. And so I think he does want to win the competition. I don't think he's throwing it, but I do expect that group at least like because basically we started playing much better once Odegaard came on and Saliba. Like it still would have been a heavily rotated side. You have Tierney in there. You had Marino, who's not always a
Sterling got a start.
starter. Sterling, like Jesus, is not a starter. Trossard is not always a starter either. So it's still technically a rotated lineup, even if he had just put in a couple of the stronger people. So I was relatively okay with the 11, and it was mostly a shocking performance, mostly in the first half because of what we weren't doing versus like Crystal Palace were just passing it through us. They really weren't doing that much. They really weren't doing that much. We do have to talk about Kivior for sure, because I'm just like, now you're in the box of chocolates. Now I don't know what I'm going to get. It's 50-50. I could get what I got against Man United, or I could get what I got yesterday. What do you think is the key difference between the strong performance that he had against Man United at home and getting bounced by Mateta yesterday?
I think Kivior's done quite well when he's been rotated in. I think he's a decent squad player. I think more than anything, I don't know how you get it, but I just don't feel you show enough personality for a centre half. I think the key difference from the Man United game, with the greatest of respect to Kivior, you can only play the opportunities you're given and what's in front of you. But when you look beyond what Man United Arsenal should be on paper and actually what we saw, not to discredit him because he should have, there's been a couple of games he should have got some assists. He had a great performance, but you weren't tested. Anytime Kivior is kind of called into action, he kind of struggles. Now, in Kivior's defense, when he has struggled at times, there's been a lot of times, as you alluded to earlier, the side has been extremely rotated. I just feel people fancy it. Like I'm not a fan of scapegoating, but I think everybody could see Kivior against Mateta. The maths is poor. Now, Kivior has to hold his hands up. He's completely mistimed that header. But I just think anytime from what I've seen, whether it's, and he's not the only reason, but whether it was Fulham, whether it was yesterday, anytime he's kind of called into action where it's a proper game, it's not like when you got rotated in at the end of the season where you actually have to proactively defend. I think Kivior is going to struggle, and I like him, but I think he probably needs to leave in the summer and go somewhere you're going to play on a regular basis, because I feel you're not going to get up the levels and really kick on, because you're not going to get game time like that at the football club. But I'm not a fan of scapegoating. There's several phases that before that ball's come in, that long ball forward by Henderson, that we could have done better. But we know we play a high line, and it just comes down to decision making. You've got to be better there, Kivior. He just has to hold his hands up, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most of the goals that we conceded this season don't necessarily just come from an individual error. I think there's always like
The sequence.
it's a sequence. I feel like that was the most individual where I, looked at it and I was like, he just has to do better there. And he definitely knows that. And after that, he really didn't struggle. It's so unfortunate because I do feel like when Kivior makes mistakes, it's so heavily like, it's so like we concede, because sometimes you make a mistake and you're not punished. When he makes a mistake, it's, it goes punished,
Fatal.
so yeah, for sure. So I saw people calling him Mustafi. I do think the mistake is Mustafi like, but you know, I don't know. I'm just happy that Gabriel is fit, because it wasn't great. It really wasn't. I was like, no, you can't be closing your eyes. Like,
Even
dude,
that centre backs are closing their eyes.
yeah, you can't be closing your eyes and stuff. So, yeah, talk to me about Tierney. You know, regular fullback, didn't invert. How was his performance? What did you make of it? Is this a sign of Arsenal needing that profile? How do you feel about his performance yesterday?
I mean, it was interesting. He was almost playing like a winger at times, as you said. He was, he was playing as a traditional left back. So it's nice to see Arteta not kind of pigeonhole players that evidently don't have strengths in those kind of roles. Just play where your strengths are. Happy to obviously see him, whether I believe he should be at the team or not. He's had a difficult time with injury, and I think I do think it's declining naturally, and fans are open to the fact that he's going now, and they're kind of past it. But he's a player with a big affiliation to the football club, so it's nice to see him get minutes. Don't really feel he pulled up any trees. I'm not expecting him to.
Mm.
Not against keeping him to the end of the season, especially with the Ornstein news that came out. But yeah, nothing to scream and shout about, if I'm honest with Tierney.
Interesting because I feel like Tierney, as long as he didn't chuck it in the back of our net, people were going to gas the performance. And I do feel like some people have gone too far, just a wee bit, just a wee bit.
I don't even
I,
know if they're gassing it. Just like what, I'm not even getting at Tierney, but what is there to gas? Like,
I mean,
what is there?
like, I feel like mostly it's just, well, it's two things. I feel like Tierney is very well liked and we are very sentimental. So when you have players that what people would quote unquote say started this project or gave us joy when
True.
there was little joy to be had, we get very attached to those players. And I think Emil Smith Rowe is one of those, and he left, and that was like a big thing for people. Martinelli is also a big part of that, and then Tierney too, because
Ramsdale was at a time as well.
exactly, there was a period of time where our attack was quite literally Kieran Tierney, and
Yeah.
yeah, bombing up the side. And he has some great moments, like the West Brom goal was individual effort. The balls that he put in for Aubameyang for the semifinal against City, he has some really good moments. So I understand that, but the there's also like just the element of fatigue over the inverted system. I do think people want to see a different type of system. They want to see a more simplified system. And I do think that, you get a little glimpse of what just having somebody that can do that basic overlap and then put in a good ball in behind. Like, when's the last time we seen somebody wide open on the back post like that from Sterling? When's the last time we seen that? I feel like it's been a long time since because I was like, that was a wide open chance. Like, when's the last time we saw something like that? And obviously Sterling misses it, but we need more of that. Maybe there's a way that Arteta can replicate that, moving forward. But I feel like I do want to see a regular fullback in this team. You know, are you into it or no? Should they hire you or what?
No,
Since you're the inverted
I don't think
fullback?
I'll be as good as any of them options. But I'm a bit twofold. I must admit, I do like the inverted system. That is my priority. I wasn't necessarily for it to begin with, but Zinchenko's first year kind of opened the door. What I want is at least for Tierney, for what's left of this season, is the capacity to, because me and you spoke on our platforms. I think that was needed against Fulham. I think it was needed against Everton. When we kind of, I don't want to say throw the kitchen sink, but whatever we've tried to do is evidently not working. They're playing with a compact low and mid block. The only way to stretch that is having the Odegaards, the intricate players as an option A in the pockets, or simply put, inverted fullbacks, just play as normal left and right backs, wingers hug the touchline and ultimately pull them out of space. So I do think there's a scope for that. And I do want to see that this season if we get into moments like in the last two Premier League games, to be fair, Jess, man.
Yeah, like I seen in the comment section, like obviously people want him to stay, some people want him to go. My main thing with Tierney staying or going is more based upon the lack of fitness that so many of our left backs have. If Calafiori was maintaining his fitness and Tommy was there, I'd say definitely let him go in January. But with the lack of people back there, and we don't know when Tommy's coming back. Calafiore's been out for a while. And the fact that I really don't want to see Timber dragged over to the left, I feel like I would just keep Tierney based on that. But anything beyond that, I feel like is a non-starter. He must go at the end of the season at the very latest. There's reports coming out that Celtic want him. I feel like that's the end game for him, is to go back to where it all started for him and go back to somewhere where he's comfortable. So I don't think we need to. And with a lot of performances, when we see players that were in bad form or weren't playing do well, I don't feel like we need to rewrite history on them all the time or like project too far. Just do the analysis on the game and take it day by day. Because I feel similarly about Jesus, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But with Tierney, players like that, let's just enjoy how he played well yesterday. We don't need to want him to start every game from now on, or try to keep him beyond this season, because it wasn't a couple of days ago where people were like, he's done at the club. You know what I mean? Amina says, I can only trust Kivior when he plays alongside Saliba. Jonathan says, I wanted to see Tierney and Martinelli. Martinelli needs an overlapping fullback. He's not a touch line winger. Kwame says Tierney did well and he should remain with our team. Stop making sense as back to basics. Nicholas says Tierney makes Martinelli better. Well, I mean, you could say that Martinelli actually had his best season with an inverted fullback with Zinchenko. So are we just trying to figure out a way for Martinelli to look better, or what? Because before it was he needs Marino and Calafiori. Now it's he needs Tierney. Abdi says we should have both options. Invert not working. Let's bring on Anthony Robinson off the bench. Let me ask you about that, because I feel like a couple months ago I said Anthony Robinson has been one of the best in the league, and you were like, nah, man, he's just not there. Yeah. What do you think
Couple
about
months
Anthony
ago or
Robinson
last year.
a couple months ago?
I don't think it's a couple months ago. You can check my receipts. I like Robertson, and I think if Liverpool don't sign him, something's gone wrong there. Big up soccer, innit? He's doing his thing. I
Okay,
wouldn't sign him for
you know
Arsenal, but
exactly what I'm talking about when I brought him up, and you were like, "Oh no, man, he ain't
hey,
not."
listen, you need to be humble. I'm being so. You need to be humble. I'm being so humble. My man got a hat trick. Your man,
I
your
don't
man
think,
is
I
your
don't
man is
know.
closing his
I'm just
eyes.
asking.
Your
I
man
want to
is
keep it
closing his
current.
eyes. Let's not do that. Just if you
Let's
want a
keep
reaction, you
current.
got one.
Let's keep current.
Let's keep
Wasn't
current.
any
What's not
good
current? You're only as good as your last
because it
game,
was
and
soccer. Like, I'm dead.
center big international footballers closing their eyes. It's crazy. These are the people who
Oh
stand.
my goodness, I'm dead. Jonathan says, any
No, I'm
chance of
joking.
Alfonso Davies? I would say no.
I mean, weirder things have happened in life, Jonathan, but I'd be extremely surprised if Alfonso Davies signs for Arsenal.
Yeah, for sure. DJ Polar says if we get a solid 20 to 25 million for KT, I'm happy with that. I'm
It's
gonna
not.
be so real with you. It's a cancel contract thing.
It's
That
not. It's not. It's not going to happen. His deal is running out at the end of the season. The club have come out and said they're thinking they're not extending him. Respectfully to Tierney, an injury plays a part. When it was made abundantly clear by Mikel Arteta, you're not involved in what I'm trying to do. Only Sociedad came forward with a loan. We've gone past that, man. We've gone past that. We've gone past that, man.
Yeah, and I'll say one thing is that I see a lot of the coaching and Arteta's not off the hook, and I don't think that anybody's saying that Mikel is like perfect because we beat Crystal Palace. I really don't. I feel like you can live in the moment of the game and be excited about the fact that we got to the semifinals. And this is a big deal. We haven't gotten to the semifinals of this competition since we won it in like 2018 or something like that. Or actually, when we lost against
1993.
Liverpool.
We ain't
Yeah.
won this since I've been alive.
Yeah. So it's an opportunity for silverware. So I feel like the overriding feeling is just like, oh, we got to the next round. But obviously, there's still questions about how Arteta uses our attackers and is he getting enough? And so I don't think, I'm not, it all is not perfect, but
It's a
equally,
spillover, just man. It's there's a spillover from the Premier League. Like people are not
yeah,
gonna. Unfortunately, they're not gonna isolate the League Cup. They're gonna bring all
yep,
the other stuff into it, and that's just something me and you are gonna have to get used to if we're not ready, man.
yeah. I'm very much, I try to compartmentalize things because, like, yeah, if we go, because when we go away to Crystal Palace, obviously the game is going to be different. The temperature is going to be different. It's a small stadium. It's somewhere where in the past we've struggled at times. So we're not going to be just, you
Yep.
know, it's going to be a difficult game. But I would expect some of the things that we saw in that second half to remain. Jesus, looked. I think if you take out the goals, just take out the goals. I think like the Nottingham Forest game, like the Monaco game, I do feel like his performances have been better than what people are saying. It just didn't have the goals. Now it has the goals, so now I feel like it gives it more like credibility. Jesus, is a player that really, I think, divides opinions. How do you feel about, his performances and whether or not he deserves a run in the team now?
Well, I didn't think we'd get here, Jess, man. Look at me now, and she knows Arsenal's platform here to speak
You're
about
so
Gabriel
ridiculous
Jesus.
now.
Like the man's last name, have faith, don't lose faith. Jesus is Lord. Yeah, you see what we're doing. You see what we're doing. You see what he did. Now, on a serious note, away from that, I agree with what you said. I do think his performances prior, of late, have been better, with the exception of Everton. There has been a bit better, but it's come down to Jesus has lost two things. He's never been a goal scorer. Many of us Arsenal fans, when his stock was higher, would have conceded that because obviously the impact and everything he got. He stopped impacting games really and truly. And I think the biggest measure of Gabriel Jesus' stock at Arsenal is whether we need a striker or not. Havertz is performing better than you. There is a massive drop off between Gabriel Jesus and Kai Havertz at this moment. And we're more open to seeing Raheem Sterling, whose stock's also on the floor, or the young Ethan, or if Trossard's on the bench. We're not talking about a seasoned Premier League player like Gabriel Jesus. I think it's a step in the right direction. Obviously, goals are great for your confidence. I share the sentiment with Arsenal fans. Is it time to give him a run in the side? I think Arteta was quite evasive going into the game at Selhurst Park. You never know. Sometimes you've got to play on players' form. You'd imagine that left-hand side is up for debate, but I'm not expect him to start. I hope that he's able to kick on and keep scoring goals now and doing what he's doing. And it's obviously away from everything. I think he needed that. I think he needed that for his confidence, for obvious reasons. Obviously, he walked out with his daughter. His daughter's in the stands. He's just announced that, he's having another child. So it's an important step for him. But as Arteta said, it's the consistency now, because we've seen Eddie Nketiah score a hat-trick, and big up to him for bagging yesterday. What else did he really do?
It was on
So
the
yeah,
video
man, big up
card.
Jesus. But yeah, he should be. Everybody, I that's my gripe with that. I'm not saying Jonathan's wrong, and he is that. Every player, surely, if I just provide another perspective, surely everybody in life and every footballer is a confidence player. Now, obviously, there are some that are more hardened than others, but you're going to feel great when you're scoring. You're going to feel down when you're negative. Surely you have to find that middle ground of when things are going right, I might not be as good as I think I am. When things are going bad, I'm not a terrible footballer. And yeah, obviously he is a confidence player. Strikers are like that, but nah, I don't know how far that goes, man. Especially when you're trying to win the title, you just got to get on with it for me.
Yeah, I wonder, one of my biggest like things with Mikel has been knowing when to first of all, getting players into a certain level of form, because it feels like a lot of our people, like our players, drop off at the same time, and then it's like, well, who do you play? And I feel like sometimes he plays players through bad form for too long, and when there's players that he could maybe get into a run of form, or they're on like a little bit of a hot hand, he doesn't utilize it as much. And I feel like this is a good opportunity to give somebody a run of games while he looks like he's coming into a better form, and also make sure that Havertz is fresh for the inevitable time where we're going to need him. Because just because Jesus starts a couple of games doesn't mean that Havertz has no value. And I feel like that's, just like a couple of days ago, if I would have said, well, Jesus needs a run of form or he needs to get a little run because we need him to be available in the team, people are like, yeah, but he's crap. Yeah, but he's all we have.
That's football, Jess. Unfortunately, man, you score a hat trick, you have these conversations. If he stinks up the place against Crystal
Yeah.
Palace, we're back to square one. Unpopular, well, not even unpopular opinion. I'm playing Kai Havertz up front. I'm playing Saka on the right against Palace. If Jesus is to start, you're playing
On
off
the
that
left.
left-hand side for me. Like, you're not going through the middle. We need
Yeah.
Havertz.
Yeah. So I feel like we definitely need to figure out something, especially at left wing. And so maybe, yeah, he can play there. I feel like he should start. I feel like that's how I feel. He should start. You don't drop a guy that just scored a hat trick. It's not like he was scored against Bolton. That was against a Premier League side that came with their best team. He deserves, another start, but maybe you can start him off of the left, because really our problem area is left
Is that
wing.
left-hand side?
Yeah, exactly. So I want him to start. I like the form that he's in, but I feel like this constant, like, you know, writing people off completely to the point where it's like, well, we can only play these 12 players. It's like, no, you're going to have to widen that up a little bit. You're going to have to utilize some of these guys. And I don't even think Sterling was that bad yesterday. I feel like he needed that goal and didn't get it, but it wasn't a couple of games ago where Jesus missed 2 sitters only for a week later to score a hat trick. So things can turn around just that quickly. I want Arteta to continue to use all of his attackers, because right now we don't have a set group where I feel like I trust it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we could
Right.
still utilize other people. Jonathan says, ask all Prem defenders who they'd rather face, Havertz or Jesus. Havertz 100% time. I mean, honestly, though, like, you can't ask them. And I've heard Premier League defenders actually say that Jesus has been really difficult to play against. So we can't ask them. We can't ask them. But it's different horses for courses. Jesus will be better against deep blocks. And maybe because Palace are at home, they won't feel like they need to sit in a deep block. And so maybe that does give Havertz more space. MN says Havertz isn't Arsenal quality. What are we doing here? Arsenal still need a killer number 9. Jesus fine as a utility player. Again, I don't think anybody's saying we don't need a striker.
Need
Nothing has
one.
changed. Nothing has changed. Like, nothing has changed long term. You know, we're talking about short term from Crystal Palace at the midweek to Crystal Palace at the weekend. We're not going to buy a striker between that
We're
time.
probably talking about a game like from Jesus. And reality is, a lot of these man, you're not leaving in January. May and the end of the season is another thing. We're gonna have to utilize the squad, but I don't think there's an Arsenal fan in their heart of hearts that would turn down the top quality striker. If I'm honest, so yeah, we need. I think you're conflating the two, man.
Yeah, for sure. Amina says Arteta definitely needs to move him to the left wing, and I can't watch Havertz at left center mid all in the playing Jesus as our striker. Would you be against that? Because you know that's Arteta's move. If he wants to play Jesus and Kai together, he usually opts for Havertz to go into midfield. If we started like that against Crystal Palace, how would you feel about that? Do you think that that's
Nah, I'm not on that. I'm not on that against Crystal Palace. Nah, I'm with Armenia, but forgive me for mispronunciation. I'm not on that. I'm not on that. Thank the Lord Kai Havertz found a bit of luck up front, because boy, it was dark, man. It was dark. And Mikel, again, kind of what we spoke about at the beginning. When you don't do certain things in the market, players are getting injured and there's a drop off. You're making 8 changes, and there isn't necessarily, a problem, but there's a lack of quality. And we still haven't addressed the whole left-hand side. The left 8, I think one thing that goes against Mikel Moreno is, I genuinely think to a degree, people looked at him as being a level raiser. We've had Havertz there. We just haven't replaced Granit Xhaka. Like, a lot of these problems
stem from the left center mid?
yeah, no, but a lot of these issues at Arsenal, Jess, we didn't wake up in these last 14, 15, 16 Premier League games and they developed this season. They've been here for a minute. So when you stand in the rain, you're going to get wet. So we've engineered this, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. Saida says Jesus in the team will always look better to me because he's a better footballer than Kai. But the reality is Kai will always score more goals than Jesus, which I think that's a really good summary. You know,
There you
you've
have
got
it. Yeah.
pros and cons to both. If you want to play better football, which sometimes when you play better football, you unlock other players to play better, like your left wing might play better, or, maybe whatever, then maybe the whole team plays better. But Kai is going to give you more goals in isolation. So, yeah, we're in a situation where probably neither one of those are the best. They're not what we want. It's not end game, but we can only work with what we have right now. David says players who are in form being overplayed, and that leads to injuries because the more games they play in a row with short time between every game, bodies simply break down with not enough time to recover. Let's see. Martinelli and Kai can't play together for whatever reason. Martinelli works better with Trossard and Jesus. Do you agree with that?
Not really, because Arteta's probably played Kai Havertz, Martinelli together the most of the three. So, like, yeah, I don't really agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like what I kind of agree a little bit, just in terms of Kai and Martinelli don't combine like at all.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
yeah, they don't
If he's saying
combine.
it on that thing, then I hear it. I agree. Like, Martinelli
Yeah,
does work a bit better with Trossard and Jesus, but yeah, we
yeah.
got bigger problems than that, man. I'll be real.
We have
Be
bigger
real.
problems than that. Oh
Bigger
my
problems.
goodness. Mr. Happy says, I think Jesus' best position is on the left. DJ Pollard says Marino is insanely left-footed. Looks like he's always tripping over the ball at times. Joe says Jesus rose, but a couple of days later he zoomed up to heaven. If your Jesus going to be around for more than a couple of days? Not. I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I don't, I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't not start him because I'm assuming that he'll fall off. I don't feel like anybody at left wing has done anywhere near enough for Jesus to get dropped after scoring a hat trick. That's what I'll say. So I'm gonna hope that he gets into a run of form. That's what my hope is gonna be. Also knowing that he'll never score enough goals. So because I know what he is. Let's see. Boy says, stop worrying about how to unlock Martinelli. He must unlock himself to be satisfied ending up in the championship. I mean,
Facts.
Martin,
Well, past that.
no, what was your kind of like feeling after what on like Thierry Henry said on Monday Night Football?
I think
Because
he
I
said.
know you did a show, but I didn't get a chance to see it. What did
I
you?
I think he suggests. I think he said everything that you say, that I say, that every Arsenal fan says. I just think
Yeah,
one thing, and it's mainly the younger fans. I think I don't know why they don't like Henry. I just feel because he's just brutally honest. He was right. He was right about his sentiment about chance creation. He was right about Martinelli getting in those positions. I don't think there's a bigger fan of Martinelli than me. Me and Jess always do the little
yeah,
jokes and whatnot. And I do agree, if you have a left back and you've got a better attacking players to combine with and all of those kind of things, great. But you're at the stage now, Martinelli. It's down to you. It's the decision making, and that's why I'm not really a fan of this Rashford chat. Like, it's the decision making. Martinelli's either going to go up several levels or play like this the rest of your days. You get into the right position. Sorry, it's just sometimes you're overrunning it. Sometimes you're shooting when you need to pass. Sometimes you're passing when you need to shoot. It's all you. And Kwame has said Martinelli is lazy. I think you can criticize Martinelli for billions of things. You can't call a man lazy. Yeah, that's nonsense. That's nonsense.
yeah,
You can say he doesn't do anything, but lazy. Lazy. That's
yeah.
probably the only thing saving Martinelli is the fact that you're gonna effing put in a defensive shift. That's horrible, horrible, and inaccurate, really, around
Yeah,
Martinelli.
that's one thing that I'd never think of Martinelli. I think the biggest thing against him is his decision making, and the way
Horrible.
that we play requires him to think more than what he probably needs to. I feel like when he's in flow, like he's playing well, he can make better decisions, but I think his bread and butter is kind of like arriving in the box and hitting it first time. I think the less he has to
Final actions.
do, yeah, the better he is. And the more we ask him to do, which you can't ask him to be Saka. Saka has to unlock everything for us. He's the thinker. Martinelli, when you ask him to do those things, it's just too much. So I still think it's a combination of Mikel not figuring out a way to get him into better positions, but he also needs to take, like DJ is saying, individual responsibility. And when he
There
does
you
get
have
into
it.
those positions, the fact that Tierney is probably, but actually Marino against Everton also picked out a really good pass for Odegaard, and Odegaard should put it away. But the fact that it's so few and far between that I actually see one of our players pick their head up and pass it to someone rather than just crossing it to no one is crazy. And I think Martinelli is really like criminal for those things when he gets into those positions, just popping it up to the back post or over hitting it or just not looking up at all. I think that's where he struggles.
Exactly, and it's like when it comes to Martinelli now, it's like I know you mentioned, and I agree in that the final action is your best when you're running in behind and whatnot. That still requires an element of thinking for one, and whether people rate Martinelli or not, I'm sure his ambition is to be one of the best in his position, or if not the best of the rest, or just a recognized kind of name, right? There's not a single footballer that is a good player that's not a good thinker. Or if you can find one, it's probably one. All the best footballers are good decision makers. Above
Mhm.
everything, Cole Palmer is great because he makes the right decisions. Saka is the same. There's plenty of examples. So it's scary territories for Martinelli, man. I like the guy, I like his attitude, but the one ingredient that you're missing, the decision making, the polishing up, these small things will make the biggest difference, man. And until Martinelli does that, well, it's more of the same. I love Martinelli, but I always think back to what was it, 2022, 23. I
Mhm.
actually now have changed my mind and thought, you know what, maybe that whole season was a bit of a purple patch. And this is what you've always been like. When you're 17, 18, playing like this, great, but you're not a good thinker. Even someone like Ethan who's learning, he thinks a lot more than you. You need to start thinking, Martinelli. And it takes me back to what Mikel Arteta said a few years ago, where you can't do everything at 100 miles per hour, where I think he's changed in that regards. But you don't, if you take that pace out or that final action stuff, like Jess said, you lose Martinelli, and you've just got to adapt, man. Just sort it out, Martinelli, because the ability is there. Just need to pattern up.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it could change just like that. I think sometimes you just, as an attacker, I feel like you need like a specific goal or something to come off for you, and then all of a sudden you start to click because his confidence is also on the floor. I think recognizing his gaps in his game, you should also be able to recognize just his overall confidence is on the ground. Some of the stuff that he would try, or just the way that you could see about even like a way a player tries to do things. I feel like his confidence is really, really low too. So even if you could just get his confidence up 5-10%, we'd be getting a better version of Martinelli. And I feel like, that's what I'm kind of looking forward to, even though I feel like he needs upgrading. So everything has a little bit of nuance for real. Zach says the psychology within the fan base regarding Jesus is weird. Before last night, we were all saying he's finished. Now we need to unlock him after a hat trick. I'm hoping other clubs fancy a punt. I don't think that's what we're saying. I think a lot of people want to see him play again. Well, also 2022, 2023 is very, again, another season where there's a lot of nostalgia and connection. So there's a lot of connection to those specific players. And people want to see that football come back because that was the last time we were happy as Arsenal fans. So I think it's a little bit of that, but equally, somebody that scores a hat trick probably does deserve to start the next game. And I don't think anybody's wrong for feeling that way. And it doesn't mean, again, your overall feeling on the player has to change. I don't think any of us are saying like, oh, now he's going to score 20 goals. I think we all know he's probably not going to do that. There's 471 of you guys watching on all platforms. Make sure you guys subscribe. Amina says Havertz also has pure decision making. I agree that Martinelli hasn't been the best, but solely blaming him for our attacking outlet is a bit disingenuous in my opinion. Kwame says, when I watched our NLD against Tottenham 2 months ago, Martinelli, instead of passing to Saka, was being greedy. Jonathan says, it's not crazy. We just know Arsenal won't buy a striker in January. We need Jesus and Sterling if we want to win anything.
Facts.
We really do. Like, we can't be pretending like they just can be in the shadows and we're going to do something. It's not possible. Live says, Martinelli cost us against defenders, realized it, and capitalized on his mistake of his head being down. My mom is so funny because she's always talking about how as soon as he gets the ball, his head just goes down. My mom even talks about it. And Johnny D says, focal point of the week, DJ gives his input on Martinelli, brighten up, my dude. Okay. I don't know what that means.
Maybe it's the fact that I don't smile, man. I'd brighten up. I'm cool, man.
No, you were smiling a lot at the very
beginning.
Man,
I know. Jesus got a hat trick and Kivi all made a mistake, so I got to run bants with Jess. I'm hella happy, man.
Oh my god. So yeah, make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. So since we're talking about left wings, I want to run through a couple of different players that have been linked to Arsenal by fans. Who do you want? What do you think about them? La 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 la.
Let's go.
So, and I'll give my opinions as well. Semenyo, thoughts, feelings. Can he go from Bournemouth to Arsenal and get that extra additional, whatever, better environment, better play? Or is he a mid-table baller? What do you think?
You never know until you give them a chance, innit? Like, I'm not comparing him to Mane or Salah, but you just never know. I think where you look at Areola's football and what Bournemouth are doing, especially in an attacking sense and actually in a pressing sense, there's a lot of transferables. In relation to if he was to sign for Arsenal and start getting goals, you could, not that we're playing well. In fact, you could argue right now he'd regress in an attacking sense because we're not creating, but which in short, with better players, you'd imagine he'd score more. I wouldn't be against it. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I definitely wouldn't be upset with Semenyo. I think he's got good technical level. I like him. I actually like him. I wouldn't be against it. But are Bournemouth letting him go on the cheap? Are Bournemouth going to make it easy? No clue for the contracts and all of that jazz. I'm sure he'd want to sign for Arsenal, and he would be good to have in the squad. But yeah, man, he's got versatility as well. I wouldn't be against Semenyo at all.
Yeah, I think DJ says like rotation option. You said he'd be good in the squad. That's kind of the feeling I get from him is he's not somebody that just like screams upgrade, starts every game kind of guy. He does seem like somebody that if we already had our starting left wing and it was perfect and we were like, cool, that you'd bring in somebody like Semenyo that can play on the right and on the left with Premier League experience with something different, because he's a physical player. He's not rapid, but he's not slow. He can play with both feet. Like, there's a lot to like, but I'm not sure that that's somebody that I put, like, if next season we just got him, I would be like, yeah, we've upgraded a lot. Like, I'd feel like,
Exactly.
So yeah, more of like a squad player, but I think most people are like, I wouldn't mind him as a starting option. Talk to me about Lookman. I know we've kind of talked about him before, but the more he feels like somebody that was a late bloomer more than
Clearly.
somebody that just went to Italy and it's working for him, but if he came back to the Prem and he would flop. I like him a lot. I think he gives me like Saka vibes on the other side, but is more of a shooter. What do you think?
I think when you look at his career, obviously he's had ups and downs. The man almost failed to become a professional footballer. He actually came into football quite late. So I think when you look at Arsenal, it's very different. But Kai's had some ups and downs. Jesus at this club has had some ups and downs. Odegaard's had some ups and downs throughout his career. So I think there's those intangibles. Obviously, he's in his prime. I believe he won Africa Football of the Year. He
Mhm.
passes the eye test. He's got skills. He scores goals. His temperament for big games. The man got a hat trick in the European final and scored and played quite well against Real Madrid. Apparently, he's got 2 years left on his contract. So Atalanta are going to have to make a decision. I'm all for Lookman. I'm all for Lookman. Another one that's versatile. He can play on the right. Obviously, we're all looking at him to play off that left, can play up front. You look at the way Atalanta play football, not even if you want to look at that. You have to be intelligent to play in a Gasperini side. Whether you like Arteta or not, he is clearly someone that's going to overload the players with information that you have to stick to. Lookman's more than welcome to sign for Arsenal.
Boy says stop buying from the Prem for F's sake.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think kind of similarly where I wish we'd expand our horizons just a little bit. Because obviously you have to spend so much more in the Prem, and that means that you can't do as much. Um, but yeah, I like Lookman a lot. I would take him instantly. I like the age too. I'm not like
27, he's ready, man.
yeah,
Prime's
I
ready,
love
man.
that. And he just has the right mentality. I love a player that wasn't meant to be this, but ended up being it because it gives me like Saka is kind of similar, and I feel like that hard working, that grit, like having to work for it, makes you a different type of player. So I really like him. So you said no to Rashford. You said no.
Dead. Listen, big up Rashford for what it's worth. Yeah, nobody loves an underdog story more than me for obvious reasons. We like Rashford, obviously, the whole Euro stuff, the scapegoated stuff, even the fact that whether he's leaving or not, I think the Daily Telegraph, they've in the last few days, there's been 10 to 12 different articles. We all defend Marcus Rashford. We all want people to be happy and whatnot. Just not at my club, dude. Like I'm rooting for you. Go do the underdog thing. Just not here. If he signed for Arsenal and he done well, I would applaud him. It's a masterstroke. If we want to be a team that keeps fighting for trophies, like literally what we've done the last 2 years, we've got enough. Rashford can be part of that. You see, if you want to win a league, there is unanswered questions at this football club that must be answered. We are already talking about we don't know what we're going to get from Martinelli, from Gabriel Jesus despite the hat trick, from Trossard of late. Raheem Sterling ain't really been given an opportunity, but we don't know. Why would you want to add Marcus Rashford to it? And it's not because I don't like the player, I don't like his skill set, I don't like all of that stuff. But he's not a family man at this moment. Gabriel Jesus has come out and had a kid. Like every week, someone's getting married or getting engaged or something like that. People talk about his environment. Yes, you could argue moving from Manchester to London could help, but he is financially free. If you can't behave yourself off the field, allegedly in money, what are you going to do in London where there's a lot more to do?
Mm,
And crucially for me, yes, there's going to be a discount on his price, but there's going to be a healthy price tag. There's going to be healthy wages, which I ain't got the money to pay for him. So I don't really care. But these are unanswered questions. And the man's 27 now. Like, you have to deliver. Between
yeah.
him and Martinelli, Jess, you would lose your hair. I would lose my hair. I'll be bold. We will go crazy.
Yeah.
Big up Rashford, just not here, man. Like my man said, forget the rehab FC stuff, man. Just not here.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for you, Rashford, just not here.
I don't think we need any more narratives around our players. I feel like there's just too many connections to other teams, and you kind of want somebody that's fresh and new and doesn't have to prove themselves or be rehabbed or be, whatever, give therapy. I don't really want that. And like you were saying, like his vibe, I don't think really matches the vibe of the team. He's quite a wild card in that way.
Exactly,
And
which could be a gift and a curse. There'll be weeks Rashford will dance past 12 man, win us the 3 points on his own. Then there'll be 5 games we don't know what we're seeing, really. I'm not on it, man. I'm really
yeah,
not on it.
and I like with Rashford, you can see why Man United have stuck with him for so long because he is the type of player when he's playing well is definitely like a special talent, but it's too few and far between. And I just get a feeling that our left winger needs to be more of a problem solver, somebody that can
Get
do
it?
more
Exactly.
and he's more of a left wing striker inside forward, which is exactly what we have with Martinelli. I'm not sure that we need to do that again. So for me, he's definitely a no. Um, Also, is there anybody else that you've looked at that you're like, we should take a look at? Because I I feel like the only other player that I really, really like, and I've mentioned him so many times on the channel, is Alberto Miliero from Las Palmas. I just
He's
like him.
decent, man.
I
He's
like him.
decent. I don't
Um,
think you end up as it. I kind of want a 1v1 demon. He's got skills, he's got trickery, he can play as an inside forward, but I don't think his whole career will be him as a left winger. I know we're not getting Kudus, but I know we're talking about the left hand side. But out of all the stupid rumors that we don't know are not gonna happen in January. The Kudus one is one that I allow myself to dream for about 5 minutes, man. He'd be perfect, man. Even someone said there, Rafael. I think Rafael is not of a level that people talk about. But I'm on, and obviously he's going to cost a lot more. I'm on Mikel Arteta working with Rafael. All the bad habits, coach that out of him, not Rashford. And I'm not trying to diss Rashford, and I don't want it because we're gonna get into scary territory. But if Rashford didn't come from their academy, wasn't English, he would not have lasted at Man United this long. If he was some random American, 27 years of age that hasn't worked out, he's gone, or Jamaican or whatever have you. There's too much. There's too much of this fixing thing. And if we're honest, Arteta's obviously done well. You know, he brought Odegaard, and there's plenty of other examples. We need to fix stuff in-house before we start buying more puzzles to fix. What's going on? Like, we've got a couple, Fabio Vieira is something that's going to have to be dealt with in the summer. Let's just fix what we can get players that have good habits and a good base, and let Arteta work with them. Why have we always got to work with the troubled bunch?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You guys know my feelings on Leao. I'm not on the boat with you guys on that one, but I do like Kudus. He's not a left winger, but I take him anyway as just somebody that can play all the positions and add something. I think with Kudus, it's his personality and the things that he has that we don't have, the ball carrying, the ability to break lines without having to pass. We sorely miss that profile, and unfortunately those profiles are extremely expensive, especially when they're in the Prem. This is why
And
we
it's
should
not
have bought him
happening in general.
yeah, we need that. We talked about Morgan Rogers the other day. We talked about that type of profile, those line breakers with the ball carrying. They're so expensive, but we don't have one. So we need to figure out a way to get one in the team. Yeah, 100%. So if we got like, if we, let's say, maybe I'm saying this now because I'd be gassed, but maybe I'd be devastated afterwards. But if we got Kudus and Lookman, I feel like I would rest. I feel I would be like, fine, I'll be happy with that.
I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't cry. I definitely wouldn't be. I wouldn't be crying. I'd be gassed. I'd be happy. Obviously, we'll be
I'd be
making hell of it. Yeah, like we'll be making so many 11s about where does Kudus fit, how does
I
Lookman
would
get
just
in.
put Kudus at the 9 and play Lookman and Saka. Just
That's
call
the
it a
thing.
day.
Like I still
Like,
think we do the striker. That if we did that, for me, that screams we're trying to not copy Liverpool like it's a bad thing, but we're trying to kind of do the Liverpool thing where Havertz would be our Firmino. I'm not comparing him; he's our facilitator, and you've got the Sakas, and in this example, Kudus and them lot being the Mane. So I'd be happy, but I'd feel like something's missing. But it would take the burden off certain man to score goals on a regular basis.
yeah. What about Nico Williams?
He's more than welcome to sign for Arsenal Football Club. But when it comes to him and Zubimendi and these guys that, that just take people around the houses, I've mentally checked out, man. I must admit, Nico Williams, it's like you've had a bit of a drop-off this season. I don't know what that is for. Maybe it's just a natural thing. But, I mean, we saw during the Euros, we saw flashes last season. I'm having Nico Williams. Like, that's probably one of the more ones where you could say, you know what, you slot in, you're probably got your own issues, but you are an upgrade on what we have. And you're someone that Arteta wanted, so you must know how to get a trick out of him.
Yeah, for sure. People are talking about like Rodrigo. I feel like he's the dream pinnacle. If we could pick off anybody from anywhere that's outside of like the Vinnies and stuff like that, somebody that's on the outskirts of an elite squad, that could be like a Alexis type signing for us. The fact that he's just not going to leave Real Madrid.
Like you said, dream.
Yeah, he's a dream signing. So I try to keep it as realistic as possible because sometimes I'd be looking at lists and people are like, yeah, let's just go out there and get Rodrigo and Leao and then get Osimhen too, and then run over there and get Barella.
That easy, man.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy. So I'm trying to, keep it realistic. But yeah, if yeah, I would still feel like I get what you're saying about the striker being missing, but my goodness, that first time that
No,
I
no,
saw
I
it
definitely, if we got
run
that, what
Kudus,
you said,
Lippman, and Saka, and I'm just sit
we
back and
can
watch.
relax.
Yeah, I just
We
sit
can
back and
relax.
watch
We
it.
say fair play. You know what we can get? We can find solutions around it now. If that's
Yeah,
cool, if we do that, I'd be cool with it.
110%. Yeah, for sure. Before we get out of, because we're gonna start in like 5 minutes on your channel, right?
I forgot. Completely forgot we're doing this stream.
Yeah.
That sounds great for me to say. Like, I forgot. I completely forgot.
Yeah, for sure.
But here we
Um,
are.
what's your message to people that over the last couple of games have had maybe not so great things to say about Ethan? Because I know we've spoken about that, and it's like, surely there's some of the stuff I'm seeing, I'm like, surely not. But what is your, as somebody that's been like cautious about bringing in the young players, what would be your message to people that are like, well, is this the Ethan that everybody's talking about?
Just he's not going to be the first, as you know. He's not going to be the last. And this is what I hate, because the same rope you climb up on in life is the same one they used to hang you with. You can't sit there and, this guy needs to play instead of Odegaard, play him here, do this, do that, the other. And then it's a complete 360. It's almost a bit like with Gabriel Jesus. That just shows you how fickle all of us as football fans are. One week, these guys are amazing, then they're less. Ethan just needs to be a young man. I mean, Ethan needs to humble himself. Where's this rhetoric? Like, how is Ethan not humble? How is he not humble as a person? You can tell he's more of a reserved character. The man hasn't got 100 career appearances or even 50. He hasn't got even 10 90-minute games. The man's just learning the tricks and trades of the game. And the biggest and most important thing for a young player to add into their game sooner rather than later is consistency. That's it. That's why managers will play you. That's why, rightly or wrongly, you see some managers go and depend upon mediocre experienced players, because they would rather someone that's going to give them 10 sixes rather than someone like Ethan who's going to probably win you 2 games on the spin 2 weeks in a row and then probably be anonymous. Let the man be a young kid, but let it be a lesson to Ethan, man. They love you, then they hate you, then they love you again. He ain't the first, he ain't the last, man. And I just feel it's Arsenal fans are frustrated, in it. Like the Fulham game, the Everton game, the summer, the question marks over Mikel Arteta. Football makes you devoid of logic to a degree, anyways. So I just think everybody's just taking stuff and it's spilling over, man. It's jarring, man. It's jarring.
Yeah,
Just
for
let the guy
sure.
be young, man. He'll be all right.
Yeah, I think it's a lesson for people, that especially the ones that were like, all you have to do is just drop Odegaard for Ethan and it's going to be fine.
Exactly.
There's leagues between the two, but that doesn't mean that either, like, we don't need to go so far. Ethan is so good, and for the fact that he's even in the team at this age speaks to that. But for him to just have a weird game with Sterling in front of him and Partey behind him, while the rest of the other players that are more experienced weren't doing anything either. Like, it's really, really difficult for me to
And how
feel
many
like,
players just had a finished article at 17? Bar a couple. Like, full cool. Messi's got even better, but Messi, teenager, crazy. Rooney, teenager, crazy. Says Fabregas, crazy. Those are exceptions. Ethan
yeah,
is a great player, but he's not them. Just let the man develop. Just allow it, Ethan,
100%.
man.
Let him do his thing. Let him develop 100%. Guys, make sure that you guys subscribe and like the video on your way out. We're going to head over
Comment Kivior as
to
well
comment
in the comment
Kivior.
section.
Comment Kivior in the comment section. Also, we're going to Deluded's channel. His channel is linked in the title, so you can just go straight over there
Just coming to
after
the
this.
Lions, then, man. We got
Yeah,
a lot to talk about, Miss
yeah.
Shino's.
So now I'm gonna be in trouble for some reason. I
I
don't
wouldn't say
deserve
trouble. I wouldn't say trouble, but I
it.
never thought this day would come, man. Like all the
Me
times I used to
neither.
sit.
Me neither.
No,
This is
no,
a
I used to
big
sit there on
surprise.
Twitter, and you lot were killing me. I
You
had
got
no
a
reply.
Christmas miracle.
I did.
You
You
got a
know how many
Christmas
times you
miracle.
used to at me about Martinelli and Kivior? And I used to sit at my screen like, damn, I got no reply. I got to act like this is all calm. Like, I know this ain't gonna last. So I'm milking this, fuzz. I'm here for this.
Fair enough. So we'll be over there in like a minute. So yeah, like, subscribe, and then get on the
Turn
title,
around.
press Deluded Gooner, and we'll be right over there. Love you
Come,
guys. Talk to you guys in a minute. Bye, y'all.
Kivior.
Kivior.